Hello and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels and today I'll be guest hosting. I'm going to start off by asking you a very fundamental question, and I think this question is a question that has been on everybody's mind, and I really want to reach out to you. The question is, how are you? How are you really doing? Because times are tough. I can understand how you feel from having to buy fuel at a pump price of 500 naira per litre with rumors of an increase, even though the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has dispelled the rumor. But there was a rumor that, yes, it will increase to 700 naira, but they've dispelled that, to having to just take on the challenge of, a possible increase in the electricity tariff. The electricity tariff was supposed to go up by 40% as of the 1st of July, but of course, it has not been implemented. So a lot is going on. Times are really tough. It literally cost me about 52,000 naira to fill up my gas tank, as opposed to the 14,000 naira that I usually used to fill it up with. The minimum wage remains the same, 30,000 naira. How are small businesses surviving? Employees are asking for a raise. Employers cannot raise their salaries. Businesses are being forced to shut down because it's really tough. On the flip side, the government has promised that the resources being saved from this subsidy will be put into good use. But it's just a promise. It doesn't change the fact that people are going through a hard time. My neighbor, literally, he usually switches on his generator overnight from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. As I'm speaking to you now, for the past 2 weeks, he had not, in fact, I've not heard the sound of that generator. I asked him recently, and I was like, neighbor, what's happening? He said, the gen makes too much noise, that he likes the quietness of the night. You don't have money to buy fuel, that's the truth. And that's our current reality. So, with that being said, let's dive straight into the topic, which is the realities of being a business owner in Nigeria. Let's talk about how the micro, the small, and even the major businesses are trying to survive in these trying times. With me, I have a marketing professional. He's also the founder of Naija Butcher, Mr. Kunle Shokumbi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, so I usually make this joke that if you see a Nigerian right now, please give them a big hug. And if you can, squeeze urgent 2K into their hands. I don't know about you.
$2K, 2K pounds.
2K naira.
That won't cut it.
I don't know about you, but my expenses has skyrocketed astronomically. First of all, before we move into business, as an individual, how are you surviving?
Man, that goes without saying. Everybody's affected, to be honest. What you normally buy for an amount, say 10 naira, for instance, goes up 2 times, 3 times of what the amount is. It's crazy, but you know what they say, necessity is the mother of ingenuity or creativity, whichever it is. So you just have to dig down and reach out, be more creative, be more innovative about the things you do. And it's a cliche, but they say cut your coat according to your size. So you don't have to put yourself under undue pressure, do what you can when you can and with what you have. I think that's what's been keeping me.
Okay. The way you make it sound so easy. It's so easy to say cut your coat according to your size. What if when you cut down, you're literally invisible? Take, for example, somebody that earns, I know of some people that earn 10,000 naira per month. And they have to go to work every day, and with the current transportation rates, they probably will spend more than the 10,000 naira.
Absolutely.
There are still people working at supermarkets that are earning 15,000 naira. There was something I saw on Twitter. It was a conversation about even the field attendants. The average field attendant in Nigeria, the people at the pump, they earn 15,000 naira. Even if you're a manager at the filling station, their rate is being pegged below 50,000 naira as a manager at a filling station per month. So how can people really cut their coats according to their size?
To be honest, everything is intertwined. So that is where the whole conversation about working together comes to play. Because I've got employees as well. So I made it look easy. I made it sound easy. But the truth is, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a general motive or a general code by which you live by. I must say that at this point in time, it's everybody's in a survival mode. all right? So you have to do what you can to keep what you have, and then use what you have to get what you want. It's just that plain simple. So like I said, I do have employees. So one of the things I do, because I know that I can't do everything on my own. I need these people, but I also have to be empathetic about the way we relate with each other and how they also contribute value to my organization. So first of all, closing hours are flexible, all right? To help with transportation, you have rush hours in the morning and then in the evening. So we structure something where they can close at specific times to get to their destinations, their homes on time without having to pay the hike. So really it's about looking at the different routine, the different stages, the different activities that go on at any point in time and see how you can improvise. Really it's just about improvisation, to be honest.
Now let's get straight into the major challenge a lot of business owners are facing. Suffice to say that this economy is thriving solely based on entrepreneurship, majorly, to be honest. The government, I don't think, provides up to 20%. I might be wrong with the statistics, but I don't think they provide up to 20% of the jobs in this country. So now, as an employer of labor, I'm pretty sure that some of your employees have come up to you and you're like, boss, we need a raise, because of high cost of living, we need you to increase the salary. Officially, from the federal government, it's still 30,000 naira, though there have been conversations about raising it, but we've not seen any sustainable action, right, on their part. You are also trying to cut down your costs because now the cost of production has gone way up.
Absolutely.
So you're trying to cut down your costs, your employees need a raise. How are you dealing with that conflict?
It's a tricky one. Okay, so number one, I don't, depending on the kind of business you run, I don't think right now it's the best thing to do is to start cutting down on employees' remuneration. Personally, I can speak for myself. But what you can do is, like I said, you can begin to look at some flexibilities. So, for instance, nowadays we have working nomads, all right? In my organization, I already talked about, making working hours flexible. There are even days that they don't necessarily have to come to work because we've structured our operations in such a way that people can actually pick up. We're into food business, specifically goat business, goat meat. We do goat meat provision. So there are times when people can call order before the day or the time they need it. So that helps us to structure our operations as well. And then with that structure, we can cascade it down to the working hours, the operations of each employee in the organization. So that it's just about providing some cushioning effect. So I don't advise that you cut employees' salary because, to be honest, it affects every single person. But at the same time, you want to manage your cost. Somebody has to bear the cost one way or another. So it's about providing that equilibrium. In business, there are three things you look at. You look at time, you look at quality, you look at time, quality. What's the third one? If something is cheap and is quality, it cannot be fast. If something is fast and is cheap, more often than not, it may not be quality. So there is that struggle to have that equilibrium. The same thing applies to dealing with employees at this point in time, managing your costs, running your business effectively, and providing that equilibrium. So it's a run towards the center. It's like that spiral thing that just keeps going, going. And you just have to deal with it.
So using your analogy, whether we like it or not, obviously it's very evident that the prices have adjusted. A lot of prices have adjusted. Any person you give a certain amount of money to go to the market to buy foodstuff, would come back and tell you that it's not enough, right? Now, how, as a manufacturer, so to say, or
a producer,
right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with the adjustment of prices? Because you just said, if it's cheap, you have to go down on the quality. So for businesses that they sort of have to maintain a price tag, so are they supposed to now downgrade the quality? Because, they need to break even. So how are you dealing with the price change?
Okay. first of all, don't get me wrong. I don't advise anybody at this point in time to downgrade quality of whatever it is that you produce or you make. Because for every business, the two key things, value and customer satisfaction. So that should drive, or those things should drive whatever you do in the organization. Because at the end of the day, it is the customer that keeps you in business. So if the customer isn't happy, you're not going to be in business. I mean, we've lasted this long in what we do. So having said that, there are times when you also have to roll up your sleeves. Now, that happens when it comes to my business. So oftentimes you find people who you have to get things done. You get an order. So rather than delegate, because you're managing time, you're managing quality and all, you might have to get more involved in the process as well. So you just don't sit back and, delegate and just relax. So it's a food business, for instance. So I've had to undergo training as well on how to make some of these things on my own, because again, employee businesses are run by people, right? And people are it's people in quotes is a variable, and that variable is one of the most uncertain variables you may have. So there are times when you have to do things yourself. Right. So that way you begin to cushion the effect on the business and yourself. Of course, it has a repercussion as well, because you have to wear so many caps at the same time. All right, so we've dwelt so much on how we're supposed to adjust, right? But obviously, evidently, we got here as a result of the decision of the government. On a personal note, obviously, because I've done my research, I understand that the removal of subsidy was the right thing to do. Because I've done my personal research. Trillions of naira being spent on a yearly basis that could have been pushed into something better, infrastructure and the rest of it. However, Nigerians are bearing the brunt, and I think the major issue here is that no palliatives were sort of put in place. What are your thoughts on that? That's a tricky one when it comes to government issues. I think the current government started off with some policies, which everybody agrees is on the right direction. But of course, what has happened over the course of the years, it would not just come, we can't resolve them overnight. I mean, I think that also goes without saying. However, it's also the responsibility of the government to provide the enabling. I think what is critical that the government can provide more at this point in time for small businesses, for any business, is the enabling environment, all right? I take my own business as an example. So the core of my business is goat. Now, to maintain quality, there is a particular kind of goat that we use. It's called the West African dwarf goat. The normal ones you find around, running around and stuff like that, to keep with the tradition of our business, because we want to keep it as traditional, as authentic, as original as possible, all right? So we don't deviate. Now, goat is the core of our business. So you find that the goat you get for maybe, for instance, 35, 40K before has suddenly gone up to maybe 45, 50K, all right? Now, the farmer or the breeder is going to buy feed to raise the goats. The feed is born out of agricultural produce. What the farmer is producing at maybe 10 naira before, the ingredients used to make the feed and all has gone up as well. The breeder is going to buy that, cost has been passed to him, feed the goats, and then pass the cost to even the person who's going to transport, because that's part of his the breeder's cost as well. So it's a chain reaction, all right? But if we have an enabling environment, it's going to help across the value chain, essentially. So the breeder would have to bring the goats from, let's say, Ibadan, for instance, to Lagos. Bringing the goats from Ibadan to Lagos means there has to be a trucker who's going to come on board to pick up the goats. Right. Now, he's already incurred costs in terms of the food, he's buying the feed for the goats and everything. The trucker who's coming to pick the goats is coming, is going to buy petrol. Right. Petrol cost has gone up, right? The roads are not so motorable. Wear and tear on the vehicle. So you have vehicle breakdown and all of that. Servicing costs and everything. So somebody is going to bear that cost as well. All right. But in a situation where, for instance, we fix maybe 2 or 3 sectors of the economy that can drive growth. For instance, I'm talking about transportation. I'm talking about concentration on agriculture. Let's say the last one is electricity, for instance. I mean, it could be any mix. I'm just saying that we don't necessarily have to do everything at once.
Right.
We can pick 2, 3 sectors of the economy that can drive growth for businesses or create that enabling environment for businesses to thrive, all right?
Yeah.
If electrification is working, if you have good electrification or electricity, we have good roads, which automatically reduces wear and tear. Time of transportation automatically comes down. So the guy who's meant to pick something from Ibadan to get to Lagos and spend maybe an average of 1 hour, or ends up spending 4 hours on the road, that automatically eats into time. So I'm waiting in Lagos for the trucker to bring my goods. I've got customers waiting, and I can't get the goods on time. So you understand what I'm trying to say now?
Okay, so I get it. You've obviously identified all the challenges, and you've said what the government can do. But what is the government doing? I'm asking you as a business owner, what is the government doing? Is there any sort of backing that we don't know about? We're trying to inform people here, right? Okay. And it's tough. You get. I understand that as much as possible, we need to be, we need to make sure that everything we put out here is very balanced, right? Right. Hence, I can see why you also try as much as possible to choose your words. We're on everybody's side, right? I know. But you cannot deny the fact that Nigerians are suffering. Now, a lot of people have put hope. I'm a Nigerian too, by the way. Exactly. A lot of people have put a lot of hope on this current government because President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has a track record of sort of transforming economies. I mean, people constantly say, oh, this is what he did in Lagos State, right? And now that he's in charge, in the past few weeks, I think a lot of people have also applauded certain moves that he made. Like I said earlier, I am totally up for removal of fuel subsidy as fast as possible because it was literally the grandest scam ever. However, my issue is the palliatives were not put in place. That's the truth. So I'm now asking you, because I might be in the blind, as a business owner, is there anything the government is doing to aid you currently? So at least we can also blow their trumpets. How do you want me to answer that question? No, as honest as possible. Just be honest. Okay, I will speak personally now. Yeah. So, as an individual, I have grown up to sort of learn not to rely so much on people. And by extension, that covers government as well. Right. It is no news. Let's not kid ourselves. It is no news. In this country, you have to fend for yourself. Yes, we have governments and all, but the truth is you still have to fend for yourself. Because if you wait for government, I don't know what can happen. Right. Policies change, governments change. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Oh, really? Oh, yes. Wow. But thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll lighten up the mood a little bit. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome back. This is Rubbin Minds. Before we went on a break, we were talking about how we can all survive, with the current realities of the economy. We also focused on how small businesses, micro, small, and of course, medium-scale businesses can thrive even with everything that is happening. To be honest, with all that is happening, a lot of people are stressed. And if there's anything I love Nigerians for is despite all we're going through, we still find some amount of light at the end of the tunnel. But it's becoming hard to see that light because how would you party or how would you ease stress when you do not have the resources to do so? I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time I actually went to a proper restaurant. Before the fuel increase, I'll go to a 5 restaurant and spend some naira. But now I can't do that because I'll calculate the amount of fuel that it would take me to get there and I'll change my mind. So, that leads me to our next topic for the conversation, which is how can we flex on a budget, Niger style? And it's a very important conversation because we all need to keep sane and stay happy despite all that is happening. Joining me in the studio is Seyi Olaniyan, the founder of Yellow Life. My brother, how you doing?
I'm very fine, thank you so much.
You don't look like you are buying fuel at 500 naira.
Yeah? I mean, if you're in Nigeria, obviously you know that you have to, you have to fulfill the all righteousness and buy everything that's there.
Okay, so before we go into the nitty-gritty, before you give us the masterclass on how we can still have fun on a budget, how important is it for Nigerians to ease out stress? Because a lot of people, they are just focused on work, making money, and it's just affecting them mentally. So how is it important to find a way to ease out stress every now and then?
First and foremost, thank you so much for the question. I think it's something that a lot of people always, probably like conflict with each other, especially when they hear the word enjoyment. Everybody believes that enjoyment or fun is just having to go to club or go to parties and just go and jump and here and there. And I'm a philosopher of you have to understand that the moment at the points that you are not thinking about your worries and you are quite at peace, it can be a moment of enjoyment for you. Because enjoyment is really for everyone. If you hold a PS pad and you're playing game and you're there for 2 hours with a bottle of wine, maybe like a 2,500 wine or 1.5, and you're having fun and you're jamming, a song.
Precisely.
Do you get, at that point, you're not thinking about anything and you're having the best time of your life. And do you get what I'm saying? But a lot of us are actually like moved away from there and feel like, okay, the only way I can enjoy is having to go to a hotel and go and probably, buy, spend a lot of money or probably go to club, and it's relative. But people need to understand enjoyment is not as deep as we all think it is. You can be in your home and have the best time of your life.
Okay.
So how you can unstress, just find the best way that is very easy for you to unstress your stress.
Okay, let's talk specifics. Especially in Lagos, where we both live. An average employee that is not living close to his or her place of employment will probably spend barest minimum 4 hours on the road,
like last
every
weekend.
Single day. Barest minimum, right? So how important is that work-life balance? And how can Lagosians, especially, I'm being specific, how can we adapt to work-life balance even though it's hard? I know of somebody that works from Monday to Saturday. The only day he or she has off is just on Sunday, right? So for such an individual that constantly works, how can the person sort of imbibe the culture of work-life balance?
So, because I don't want to waste much of time, right? This topic is quite very broad. We have the remote workers, we have 9 to 5, the one that I just make an example of, and we have the ones that, they work hybrid, Thank God for COVID, it kind of make work very easy. But I think for 9 to 5, that work from Monday to Saturday, to be very honest, work-life balance is very difficult because you wake up as early as 4, get home by 11 p.m. I was there, I've been there. And at that time, even Sunday is no time because you go to church from morning, afternoon, literally, the main time you have is to iron. The only advice I have for those people is every 1 hour or 2 hours that you have, maximize it for yourself.
What can they do in those 1-2 hours?
In those 1-2 hours, I mean, like I said, fun to you can be watching TikTok. Fun can be easy, maybe just walk to a nearer place close to your office to go and maybe probably eat and just relax your head. Work-life balance doesn't have to mean that you have to have fun. It's just the moment you have peace. That moment you're not thinking about KPIs and deadlines. You're not thinking about your client. The moment and work-life balance is not just only even peace. It's about having time for your family.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm being as realistic as possible. How can you have peace when you have children's school fees to pay? They've increased your children's school fees. Your mother in the village is calling you, telling you that your grandmother swallowed spoon and they need 5 million naira to operate it. How can you have peace?
So now there's a difference between life problems and work problems. You can't say that every Nigerians are always going through life problems. At the time that you're not going to life problems, how do you balance your work? Let's see if you're being realistic. I mean, of course, when you are facing challenges in terms of maybe, let's say, you have school fees to pay, all of that, that is that. At that point, you have to endure to face the crisis, because there's nothing you can do at that point in time. But now, let's now remove life crisis. Let's even talk about the reality of 9-to-5 worker, that the only thing you think about is work.
Right.
When you wake up in the morning and the only thing you're thinking about at that point in time is work. Now, how do you do yourself from 9 to 5 p.m.? Averagely, psychologically, every 9 to 5 hours, they don't even work from 9 to 5 straight. Some of them gist. From that 9 to 5, they gist from like maybe 10 to 12. And some of them work from this. And some of them are shut down from even 4 p.m. But the most important thing is that now, how do you maximize those time to your own effect, to your own advantage? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. That some people have not spoken with to their mother or to their family member because there isn't the excuse of, I don't have time at all. Meanwhile, the 10 minutes you're spending with Emeka to talk about Man U and Chelsea, you can use that 5 minutes out of it to speak to your mom. Mom, I'm checking up on you.
Right.
And you've done that. Work-life balance is broader than enjoyment. It's about healthcare, your body, how you take care of yourself, your family, how do you check up on them? You know, all of those things, they are all embedded. Now, when family crisis now comes in, then now, you have to take a pause, because now you have work problems, you have family crisis, and, everything's all jam-packed together. But it's very possible. But I'm not saying that it's going to be effective. I'm not saying that it's going to be accurate as a remote worker that literally you don't have to face the traffic. Right. You are in control most of your time, aside from the timeline you have. Right.
Yeah. I think you've said something very profound, and I think every single person watching this should really imbibe what you've just said. And I think people just get into the whole mental space of having to give excuses and saying there is no time. So people do not create enough time for their families, and they always fall back to, I'm busy at work. So please, as much as possible, create time for your loved ones, because at the end of the day, family is what matters the most, right?
It's the key.
So thank you so very much for that.
You're welcome.
At this point, I even feel like interrupting the show to just call my mother and tell her, how are you doing? But we need to go on with the show, right? Okay, so now we've talked about what work-life balance really is. And even though you don't have resources, try to maximize your time. So time here is really the currency.
It's key.
Fantastic. Now, let's go to enjoyment. Gone. Let's say I have 20,000 naira to flex for the weekend, and I really want to have fun. Can you give me a rundown of how I can spend 20,000 naira? Let's use Lagos as a case study, because I think things are cheaper in other places of Nigeria. I stand to be corrected. But how can I slay Niger-style 20,000 naira budget? Just give us a
So weekend is relative. Are you saying from Friday to Sunday, or just one day in weekend?
From the entire from Friday,
entire weekend.
Yes, Friday night to Sunday. Just give me what I can do with 20,000 naira.
I mean, it's very dicey, right? Because now fuel has increased and so many things are very expensive now. But I'm just going to give you a logic example. I've said it before. So imagine on Friday, as you're coming from work, you branch into a mall and you get a bottle of wine. You get 2 bottles of wine, to be precise, but 2 bottles of wine, cookies, and you just box something worth of 10,000 naira. And you now, also go and buy turkey and all of that. Let's say at the end of the day, you have 15K. Now you're in your house, right?
Wait, so let me get this straight. The bottle of wine, turkey, is how much?
Yeah, if you have, I don't want to mention brand name, but I believe that I still bought 2 bottles of wine that did cost me up to 9,000 naira.
Okay.
Right? And turkey, half kilo is, I don't know how it is, but I know that with 15K.
Okay, so 15K is gone.
Yes, for yourself.
Okay.
And you're in your house.
So remaining 5K?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you are now so blessed and you have a PS4, now you know that the only thing you have to do is set a timeline for yourself. From this time to this time, I want to engage myself in this competition and Netflix afterwards, and that is home enjoyment. Okay. Now, if you want to now have the
We're actually out of time. Just take about 60 seconds to wrap up.
So if now wants to like a normal enjoyment, Friday to Sunday to very honest, 20K, except that you're going to share right with your friends and go to club or probably interestingly, there are a couple of activities now that they are very easy. They are not really expensive. A cocktail of 4K, you are good for the night, or you have friends that, you know, they party a lot. And they share drinks with you. There's a lot, but I hope I have the time to explain this, but, you know, there's no more time to explain.
Thank you so very much, and it's really a very important conversation to have, especially at times like this. Whatever you do, no matter how hard the country is, make sure you watch out for your mental health. Make sure you find peace despite all of your family problems. Thank you very much, Sheyi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rubbin Mind continues after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. This is Rubbin Minds. We're now at the final segment. Before we went on the break, we talked about how you can slay on a budget, Niger style, despite everything that is happening in this country. And of course, earlier we talked about how small businesses can thrive amidst everything happening. And now, let's move on to some entertainment. You would agree with me that social media is king right now, and a lot of Nigerians derive entertainment via the digital platform. Especially in music, right? Our Nigerian artists are thriving. Recently, Burna Boy just celebrated his birthday in front of 45,000 people, right? And it was so surreal. I watched a video of Ira Star performing, I think, somewhere in Portugal, and the people that were even there were not even black people. They were literally white people, and they were singing everything word for word, right? Our entertainers are making us proud as a nation. Now, a lot of people focus on the musicians, they focus on the comedians, the actors, but there's also another industry that is making us proud, which is the fashion industry, and that leads me to the discuss for the final segment. Fashion, arts, and photography. Nigerians are making a global mark. I'm very privileged to have in the studio a fashion designer extraordinaire, engineer Ifeanyi Nwunne.
Yes,
I hope
sir.
I did not murder the surname.
No, sir, you did perfect. You did great. Because people always find it hard. Well, you actually did great.
Thank you very much.
Well seasoned.
Thank you, thank you. Also, I have a fantastic photographer and artist, Logo Oluwamuyiwa. Welcome.
Nice. You did good too, brother.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had to practice that in my head, you know, because your name literally is spelled L-O-G-O. So in my mind, I was like, Logo, wow. Do people also make that mistake and call you Logo?
I could talk to you about that for days, man. All my life.
Omologo, that's what Ashake.
Exactly.
Oh.
That's an iconic name, bro.
Thank you so much for inspiring Ashake. All right,
Wow.
let's get straight into the conversation. As a photographer, you're thriving, right? And I know it's quite difficult because there was a time I feel like the photography industry was experiencing a huge challenge in the sense that we now have mobile phones. They can take very clear pictures, and it looked like, you know, when you go for events and then you see 1,000 photographers, now it's just barely one or two because everybody is relying on their phone. How were you able to sort of, you know, make a mark and transit and really just own the photography space digitally and also non-digitally?
I mean, photography is about your perspective, and everybody have one. Everybody, whether you're an artist or you're just a daily individual. So cameras have made their ways into everybody's hands, but perspective in photography would determine what would make anybody stop and review your work. And if I would go out and call myself a photographer, it's important that I set a career that is very clear to and true to my perspective. So that was the first thing I needed to do. Second, I studied the greats, you know, understand the people that did it before me. Photography is an export product, you know, it came into our country. And this is a tool that has been around the world. It's done very interesting things for global systems and understanding the world. So turning the lens on my people and then to understand the people that have done it before me so I can do it way better or possibly make a mark. And as you know, I am a black and white photographer. I've always fell in love with black and white photography. So I decided to shoot Lagos in black and white photography. And in the 10 years of doing that, it's a consistent perspective, and it has created a space for me. All
right. I love that. I love that. Engineer.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm going to ask you, how did your parents feel that after spending some amount of money to send you to school to study engineering, you now woke up one morning and said, no.
First of all, I went to Covenant University, so they spent a lot of money for real, you know.
And then you now say you want to play dress up.
The thing is, I was doing them simultaneously. So the idea was being sustainable enough to not just do without them, you know. Like not ask them for money, just be able to do things while I'm still killing it to school. So as at my 200 level, I was already like, I was doing a lot of stuff already. I was managing artists as a 200 level. traveling to different countries, you know, already. I was shouldn't probably say it's on TV because we weren't allowed to leave school.
I know, I was about to say that.
I found my ways. I had to leave school. I had to travel, you know, I had to do all that work, just figuring out how to make a sustainable life.
Bishop will say, can you recall back the certificates? You know how it was.
I'm not here.
So don't worry, we'll edit it out. It's a live show, but we'll find a way to edit it out.
But exactly, you know, so it wasn't too hard, you know, being able to dabble in both. I did my engineering, studied electrical engineering, and had a, you know, great time doing that. And just being able to adopt that structure in my everyday life, you know, so now I have a fashion business that's thriving here and overseas. I have a music business, a music label and a management company. And now we have the community, VVS Lagos, which is really what we're here for. You know, we have all that all functioning as a sustainable ecosystem of its own. So I think it's something they're proud of. It's not something that they'll say, because in the end, fashion, you know, it's not like fashion, plain dress up, like you said, but it's a means to an end. It's a whole industry. It's something that people wear every day. It's like food. You know, it's like food, it's like housing, you know, it's clothes. You know, it's every single day, everyone needs clothes. Yeah. So the idea for us is just being able to create like a real ecosystem where people are actually getting jobs, getting money, being inspired, but they're also looking cool. You know, yeah, which is why we're here.
Now I understand why people pay you so much money for your outfits, because, you know, there's a difference between a fashion designer and a tailor.
Exactly.
You know, so with this your big English that you have just spoken on air, there's no way I'll now say, okay, it's 5,000 naira that I have for you to make an outfit for me, right? So now, is fashion that profitable? And how do you think the quote-unquote, no disrespect to tailors, I mean, tailors is just a joke that I made. So how do you think that people that are not earning as much can scale up? What has been your secret, you know? So, how can they step up?
So I think that's really why we're doing what we're doing at VVS Lagos. The idea is to inspire, you know, people that just started. Like, you know, I started fashion about 11 years ago now. I'm just 28, but I mean, I feel old. But I started 11 years ago now, and, you know, what I've learned between now and then, I'm trying to apply it in what we're doing with VVS Lagos. So we have ourselves as Iron Official, our fashion house, and then we have other brands like, you know, Law from Jules, TJ Who, or Khadijo, other fashion houses have done things here and internationally, you know, doing fashion shows and exhibitions here, just showing people that it's easy to actually access all this kind of things, just working on the ideas without even trying, you know, too much. I think what we've done differently is that we continued. It was extremely important to continue. It was extremely important to innovate at every single time. And it's extremely important to make sure we're moving as a community, because in the end, we can't really do it on our own. So we also love to adopt, like, working with our friends, you know, our, like you said, tailor, even the tailors become our friends, our family, like the photographers, down to how we're putting out together the entire imagery. You know, want to make sure it's a community instead of it being a one-man business. Right. So I think that's been very helpful with helping us move forward.
Oh, right.
Yes, sir.
Muyiwa, can you talk about your industry and how it's been exported out of this country, you know?
Okay, excuse me. So when you say my industry, you mean the art photography scene, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why I thrive.
Industry, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much. So
billions of dollars.
So that's why I thrive, and that's the big pride of my life, because as my colleague was mentioning, if I did emphasize what collaboration means, right? Art, as I mentioned, is a perspective, but there are pedestals and platforms that can make these things a global conversation. And as you know, with art, we needed to prove ourselves, not as just individuals working in silos. So artists connect, we make friendship out of each other's lives. You know, we visit each other, encourage each other digitally often, because, you know, I tend to work alone and alone execution type thing because of my street photography ideas, right? But in the communities of like exhibiting or sharing tools or even collaborating for gigs that would earn, you know, collaboration is a big part of how we do that. And curators, obviously, curating is a big part of art and, you know, and photography especially. Right. So you have curators who have excelled on a global scale, who are putting us on, who are, you know, looking backwards and be like, yo, let's leave this door open for people who are also brilliant in other parts of the world. And that kind of united front from the curating side of things to the collecting side of things, because, you know, you can also make art, but if you can't sell it, there's definitely no source of income. So the Nigerian collectors who have also been supporting the arts, who have now supported it enough that the global collectors are now paying attention to African art. They deserve a lot of praise for that as well. And then the institutions, right, the galleries, the institutes that would make things a bit more academic, or organizations like African Artists Foundation, the CCA, that's the Center for Contemporary Art, as well as public spaces like Freedom Park and, you know, Goethe Institute. So these institutions to provide platforms, whether I named them or I forgot. Then there's the artists themselves, right, who decide to take on a road less traveled, you know, who decides that, hey, I'm going to forge a part in this, despite, you know, the country or perspective of that kind of calling. So myself and my colleague who decided to forge this part, as I mean, right, all of that, you know, the artist's vision, the need to see it through, the continuous effort of developing yourself and connecting with global systems that matter, the institutions that allow you to show that skill you have or that perspective, and the collectors who fund that, and then the curators who are putting us on a global system. It's a pipeline. It never works in silos. Right. So that's what's making the arts and that place thrive.
Amazing, amazing. You're a phenomenal storyteller. I have seen your works and it's incredible.
Thank you.
I also think you use your work for a bit of activism. How important is it for you to spotlight certain stories just to impact the Nigerian people?
I mean, activism is a big word for you to ascribe to me, so I don't know. Thank you if you say that. But what I think
it's part of our lifestyle in Lagos.
Yeah, so I think part of what I'm
because
really...
during the NSAS, you know...
Photography was big for that coverage, yes. But for me, the reason why I was a bit shy of that word activism is that perspective is what I'm trying to do. And when I asked in 2013 that what if you strip Lagos of its color, it was a bold way to see a truly colorful, very vibrant city where, you know, the sun is literally very up in the sky half in the day, so the contrast and the colors are sharp and it's jarring. So to strip that big essential part of the city, which is the color, it's in itself maybe an artistic activism, if you say, this perspective is possible. The yellow buses are beautiful, the people are vibrant in their Ankaras, but the forms and the shapes and the shadows and the contrast and patterns are also beautiful. Right. And those photographs can come from any part of the city. So in my archive, there's no... You don't even use geography or map or location. You just see the essence of the photographs because I'm framing them for artistic perspective to show that my city too is beautiful, it's vibrant, it has life, and the Lagosians are the actors of this story. So it's a collaboration with the city. And if that perspective has been long enough to make you say, hey, I can now see Lagos through this eye, then maybe it's an activism that is on.
It's important enough.
Yeah, that's what I think.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Ifeanyi.
Yes, sir.
I think you've spoken well enough of how you are sort of exporting what you do. Now, as a fashion guy, right, how important is it that people understand the need to look good on a budget? And how can I look good on a budget? I cannot afford to pay hundreds of thousands for what you do.
Right.
I have just a sizable amount of money. How can I look good?
I think, first of all, looking good, you know, starts from a place of the inside. I think that's, you know, the priority of, should be the priority of anyone, is, you know, start from the place of inside and, you know, feel good first. Because if you feel good, then it's easier to look good. Then you can put on any, you know, single pieces. And in the end, I started my fashion house just because I didn't have no access to clothes. That was literally the only reason. Because I see Prada and I see Givenchy, and I see Gucci, and I'm like, this is just so expensive. So I'm like, oh, let me just make similar pieces. And then I was confident in those pieces I was wearing. So it just started more so from a place of being creative. So I think we have to be more confident in our creativity. Like in the end, I didn't know just, you know, making and testing clothes would get me to Stevie Wonder to wear my clothes, for example. Or like get my clothes in Coming to America film, for example, you know? But it was just trying. And let's just test, like he said, show our perspective of what clothing should be. Right. How we want to make people look. But actually manufacturing by ourselves and, you know, like we also said, creating the ecosystem of producing, distributing, and also like delivering to people. Versus it just being a one-sided thing. Because what happens is that a lot of people have interesting ideas. I'm sure you have brilliant ideas of how you want to look like, but you don't have places you want to produce it at. You know, so the plan also is to, that's why we want to say fashion clothes, not just about the clothes, about the business. It's about being able to cater for everyone in such a way, like, and that's the goal for us. We're starting expensive, but we want to bring it down such a way that everyone can access it. And everyone can afford it. So yeah, that's really the goal. We're in the process. Very soon, our clothes are gonna, be 20% of what it is currently.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been
Absolutely.
such a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Ifeanyi said that he had to start copying certain brands and making his own version. I hope it's not the
Literally.
case of having a Gucci and then you manufacture only Gucci.
Or
How you see some of those brands like Nike and then the logo is looking very different.
No, absolutely not. But guys, I want you guys to, more importantly, check out VVS Lagos. It's going to be an epic show and experience. This is on my shirt as well. My shirt is just covered right now, but it says VVS Lagos. Check it out on Instagram. It's a community. We're going to do fashion, art, music, and tech conversations that you've never seen before. You want to be a part of it.
Okay.
I can't wait to see you there too, brother.
Thank you very much.
Artist, photography brother too.
You took advantage of it, but we'll still
Absolutely.
send you an invoice because it wasn't part of this. We were supposed to come and just have a conversation. All right. Rubbin Minds continues after this break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is Rubbin Minds. We've had 3 amazing segments, and now we still need to spotlight something very important from the first segment, which we're talking about businesses and how MSMEs can survive with our current realities. It's very important for us to make sure that you as a business owner find ways to navigate, and also you as an employee can also find ways to navigate through these trying times. And with me in the studio, I have Mr. Chijoke Eze. He is a digital economy expert. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We have such a short time because
Really?
we literally have barely 4 minutes to wrap this up, right?
Okay.
So we want to be very solution-oriented, right? How can we thrive with the current realities in Nigeria?
Well, one of the best advice I could give at this time is shrink. Shrink the things you do. Be less extravagant, cut back, be procedural. Take 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't suspend some of your elaborate dreams, not because they're not worth it, but the current realities may not support it. So manage, cut back, and then build from whatever you're able to achieve from the little you do on a day-to-day basis. That's it.
Let's get to the practicality of it.
Okay.
You know, it's easy to say cut back. It's
Yes.
easy to say shrink.
Yes.
But what of a situation whereby there is almost no room to cut down? Let me give you a practical scenario. If I earn 30,000 naira minimum wage, and I have to take transportation that costs me 2,000 naira every single day, and I work 5 days in a week, that's
Correct.
2,000 naira, that's 10,000 naira in 1 week.
In 1 week, correct.
And that is 30,000 naira in 3
Correct.
weeks.
Yes.
And I have to work for 4 weeks. How do I cut down?
Well, cut down is not just on the individual side of the employee. It also it extends to the employer. First things first, if you could shrink some of your working areas to allow some of your staff spend the night, do that. Why? Because you're able to achieve productivity from them and then help them cut back costs. Because whether you like it or not, as an entrepreneur, you've already paid for the space. So whether you use it or not, the cost is there, is running. I think economists or financial people call it sunk cost. It's there, you already incurred it. So you either make that kind of room or you cut down on the number of days that your staff get to work. And then you find a way to redistribute your financial challenges. Maybe what you want to do is, do you want to provide internet services to them to say, you know what, work from home for XYZ number of days, or work within this period. Either of that helps to work.
Okay, thank you very much, Chijoke.
Oh, really?
It's been very, very helpful.
I'm very brief, actually.
I know we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming on the show.
Okay.
And I truly hope that you've learned something or two and you're able
Maybe
to
what
navigate.
you could do is have this conversation a second time where we can have a lengthier period.
We would definitely
Thank
do
you
that.
for your time.
We'll
though.
definitely have you over again. It's been a phenomenal episode, and all I can say is we will survive this. Nigerians are very resilient people. Try as much as possible to do the best you can, and things will be better. And I really have faith in this government that eventually we will see reasons why we've made all these collective sacrifices. Till next time, it's bye for now.